All right, guys. So, real quick, I'm just going to go over how I edit these images that I get at concerts where there's just unflattering light, not enough light, too dark. You don't have flash. You don't have anything else to, add in light. You just have what you're going with. So, this is the final image, edited, everything like that. It's already done. But I'm going to go ahead and reset it to import and we'll go over it. So, first thing I want to point out is this is a raw image. Raw images are totally important for doing this because if you don't have the raw image, you're probably not going to be able to edit a JPEG with the color correction that you need to do right for something like this. So, again, raw images always if possible. Now, the next thing I want to show you is my settings on the right hand side here. You can see that I was using a 35 millimeter. I was at f1.4, 250th of a second, and 1250 ISO. So not too bad on the settings there for it being as dark as it is. Now, the first thing I want to go over real quick is that normally I use the fix my exposure first, making sure everything's light right. But because I'm doing so many color corrections on this, I want to start with my color to kind of get a good basis for where I'm going to go. So the first thing I do is use this white balance tool. As you see, wherever you go in it, it tries to correct it to the right tones based off of where you put it. I usually just stick it on the skin. That usually gets it to where all the extra light goes away, gets your white balance corrected. Then you can just hit the check mark and it'll put it in there. So, and as you see on the right hand side, it moves it. That's basically where I need it to be. The next thing is I know that later on in this edit, I'm going to need a little bit more color in here. So I'm going to go ahead and touch up my vibrance. And I always desaturate just a little bit. Not much. So iPad's always a little trouble to finesse with. Oh, come on. All right, that's good enough for now. All right, so now that I have that, I'm going to go over to my hue, saturation, and luminance. And this is where a lot of this color correcting comes back into play. You'd be surprised at what you can do. So I start with red because I can see that there's a lot of red in this image. I know I'm going to want to desaturate that just to take it out of the photo. So I'll go ahead and pull it up till I get it to a point to where I think it's good. And because there's a lot of red also, to brighten it up a little bit, the whole image and her skin, I'm going to go ahead and add some luminance in there so it brightens it up a little bit there too as well. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is purple. Of course, you can see the purple on her shirt and her pants and her tattoos and things like that, and also the magenta. So I'm going to go ahead and desaturate the purple to 50 and also the magenta to 50. Now, you can see as right now, she looks kind of washed out. Skin's really pale. Not really a whole lot of contrast or fill in this. So this is when I would go to my light and start messing with my exposure. Now, I already know what settings I had it on really for this, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly as well. Oop, not contrast. So we'll go ahead and get that where I want it. Contrast up a little bit. Take down those highlights. Well, if I can get it to go. Okay. Sorry about that. Doesn't want to work properly. There we go. Get some shadows so we can get some of that background out of there. Take down the whites. Get a little black in there for some detail. So now that you see from what we had, you got a little bit more detail. You can kind of see her now. She looks about right. You know, she's not pink anymore or magenta. And so that's the biggest thing. So this is where I take, a big tip and I go to my effects and mess with my split tones. So split tones, you can move around, you can change all this stuff and get it all to wherever you want it to be with anything. But for this image, I already kind of knew where I wanted, so I made a preset for this so I could do it quicker for this. So I got my split tone preset, pop it on there, and you can see already it brings her color back to her skin. You know, that background's really good and crisp, not a lot of noise or anything like that. So let's see here. Now that I've got that there, this is when I'm going to move over to my other effects, like my texture, adding in my texture or my clarity, a little bit of dehaze, and my vignetting. Now, for this, let's see here. Go right about there. And then I'll also go over to my details, sharpening it up a little bit, do a little bit of a noise reduction, and also some color noise reduction. Make sure my optics are good. All right, so now we really got a good image or a good, image for what we can do. We can do a lot with this now. So you can add a bunch of different effects. You can go into Photoshop if you wanted to, anything like that, add all that. But simply, I just go ahead and I'm going to add some more radiant filters. And I already have a preset for that as well. So it goes a little bit faster, which I'll also show you guys. See? Boop. Now she's really centered. You got that depth. You created that depth with all the darkness in the back, really moody. Went in there with the split tones being orange and yellow, have the background being teal to kind of complement each other right there. Always think about my complementary colors whenever I'm doing anything with a lot of light and stuff like this. So that's a good way to do it. And that's with that just being said, you guys can see what I did here. I did a linear filter there. Got me a radiator that lights her up a little bit. I got this one to darken around her. And I got another one up here that also does a little bit more darkness, but also I detexture and declare, take down the clarity on this one so that it makes the around her more blurry and, out of view. So it kind of builds that depth again. So now you have this. And then the final thing I always do, and this is one of my favorite things, is go in and lift the shadows. I'm a big fan of doing this. Some people don't like it. Some people do. Some people like it a lot. Some people just like a little bit. For me, it's just case-by-case scenario. But for this one, I think it's a little bit too much with the preset. So I'm going to go in here, bring it down to about right there. And I like that. And we got our image. So this is how I correct all my concert photography with, like I said, that poor lighting. If I have poor lighting, don't have a flash, don't have any other way to compensate, this is how I edit my photos. Again, that's a before and after.